So the title basically beckons a question. You know, how do you succeed based on a recipe? What does a recipe do to actually make you succeed? The idea came because our food hub that's going to be here in Greenville, that's going to be serving people across the full spectrum of the socioeconomic sphere, is going to be based on teaching people recipes. The whole idea here is that the majority of the production that we have going on in the upstate and in South Carolina in general is oriented toward granddaddy's farming. Farming is very, very traditional. It's a traditional place, it's a conservative place, and there's all sorts of great stuff about that. One of the things that has happened, and what Amanda referred to, as well as our last speaker who we saw in the video, is that industrialization has left the farmer behind. The local farmer does not have a connection to the local consumer. How many of you have actually been on 10 different farms in the upstate and purchased a product that you ate? 10 farms. Did you eat off of them? Right, only 2 people or so, 3 people, right? And that's because our farmers are basically oriented toward a goal that doesn't exist anymore. They are producing products that are going to go to the auction house or to the sale barn, or the tobacco buyer is going to come by and check out my crop. Oh, that's right, you don't grow tobacco anymore. What are you growing? Well, we haven't been growing anything since the tobacco subsidy ended, right? And that's devastating because we don't have the food that our local children, our local families, all of us need in order to really enjoy a fresh, healthy diet. We don't have the variety from green leafy vegetables to nightshades to things that grow in the ground and things that come off the trees. We don't have those varieties that are relevant to our contemporary taste. We don't have those items that are relevant to those people who are moving here from other locations throughout the country and throughout the world to work in our industry. All those wonderful economic success stories about, yeah, we got a couple more we got a couple more businesses that are moving here that are going to be supplying Michelin and supplying BMW, that's awesome. Where are the people who are moving here to work in those industries going to get the food that is relevant to them in their cultural experience? Whether their cultural experience is living in Montana, San Francisco, Boise, or Beijing. Are they going to just buy it at Whole Foods? Are they going to go to Whole Paycheck? Sorry, no offense. and purchase, these products that are being shipped in from California, from Mexico, from Florida that supply us? Or are they going to be able to access a local farm system and a local farm interface, basically a marketplace, where they can purchase their product from somebody that they know, from their neighbors who are growing the product right down the road, or across county lines, where their money is going to be benefiting and profiting those producers in our area. And those foods that they're purchasing are going to nourish their families in a fresher, more nutritious manner. How do we do that? A lot of people have lost their ability to cook. The convenience of America has kind of changed our culture. And so in the lower socioeconomic spheres, a lot of people are eating in the pejorative term food desert, right? I think that's a horrible 2-word combination. Food desert, awful. It's totally negative. These are folks who are, by virtue of their community, they live in their community, and they have basically lost their access point to being able to purchase good food. And in many cases, as a result of that, they've been purchasing prepared foods for 1, 2, and even 3 generations. So they're eating wholly prepared foods that are highly processed. And those processed foods get heated, they don't get cooked. So they need to learn how to cook again, necessarily. And in the same spectrum, I used to cook for some billionaires and movie stars and stuff like that when I was a personal chef. And they couldn't cook. I had one billionairess who had never turned on the range in her kitchen. It was a 2-year-old kitchen. I arrived there. I flipped on a couple of burners to check things out, and it was a burning smell of plastic, and it turned on the alarms because they had never removed the film. Now, I've just made an assumption, right? That's a real story, you know, and that doesn't happen just once. I mean, that's
Can
kind
you
of
name names?
Excuse me?
Can you name names?
Oh, heck no. Non-disclosure agreement, yeah. But I'll tell you, it's true to watch across the whole sphere, people trying to prepare themselves different ways of eating, prepare different meals, and they're not able to get there because they don't have the skill set, they don't have the access, they're missing both. So what we're looking to do here in the Greenville Food Hub, which again, food hub, like the words, these are basically USDA definitions, let me just put it that way. But we're stuck with them for the time being, and I invite you all to come up with an alternative. So our food hub is basically going to be a marketplace. It's going to be a wholesale and a retail marketplace where we're purchasing products from the 10 counties of the upstate, bringing them together, washing them, sorting them, grading them, and then selling them to chefs, to markets, and to consumers directly. We're going to be using a distribution network, and hopefully it's a novel one. We're working very closely with the Sphinx Corporation to be able to utilize their Fresh on the Go program and the fact that each one of their gas stations, the vast majority of which happen to fall in food deserts, have kitchens, and they have coolers, and they have a distribution network. And they are working with Francis Produce, which is awesome, who also supports us because Francis Produce wants more local producers making more relevant stuff that they can sell to more people in the marketplace. And so we're going to be connecting those sorts of things. We got here because of a long road of research and meetings and facilitated conversations. 10 at the top, I don't know if you guys know who 10 at the top is. Look them up and come to a meeting. 10 at the top is devoted to facilitating collaboration, cooperation, and coordination in the 10 counties of the upstate. And these guys have done an amazing job of providing access points to the economic development offices, the chambers of commerce, tying together the Farm Bureau, with Ag South, with a lot of these different independent organizations in the area that on their own aren't being terribly effective at solving the broken food system for the local farmer and the local consumer. But together, collectively, in a coordinated fashion, really are. And they're expressing that basically through this food hub. It's about 3 years worth of research, and I don't know, Scott Park, how many meetings?
4. Yeah, maybe a couple hundred.
Many couple hundred, yeah, right. Development time, you know, to make sure that we are addressing and listening to all of our different partners in the community. So sometime relatively soon, in the next couple of weeks, I hope, we'll be able to express exactly where it's going to be falling in the city, but it will be here. And until there's ink on paper, I'm not saying anything out loud. I'm going to just fly through these. Thank you, Patrick, for helping with the deck. But you know, I think what we really need to look at are some of the numbers. So South Carolina spends $11 billion on food in a given year. And if I can make this happen, 90% of that comes from out of state, which basically equates to $9.9 billion in lost potential revenue. All right? And so what we're looking at, and this is just a diagram of the old Lawrence Road BDC location that we had hoped, and Clemson students helped draw that together. Wow. We had hoped to be able to site on that location. It isn't working out. The old mill behind it isn't gonna be in our control. So the site that we're going to be working with is still going to comprise all those different elements. There's going to be a teaching garden, there's going to be a production farm, a very small scale, basically to exemplify the types of products that we are looking for the local farmer to produce. So if the farmer is producing a globe eggplant, we're going to be asking for 6 or 8 different types of eggplant. A Thai eggplant, a Japanese eggplant, a Vietnamese eggplant. These are all different shapes, forms, and varieties of one eggplant, but the specialty products carry a premium price. And so we want our farmers to be maximizing their profit potential while utilizing their existing skills and techniques. We're going to help them figure out how to get those products in the ground by working with our partners at Clemson Extension, at Carolina Farm Stewardship Association, with different organizations like Farm Bureau to be able to get out to the large number of farmers who are still wondering, when is somebody going to solve this problem for us? What we're based upon is basically another food hub in the state. So Grow Food is down in Charleston. They provided us with their basically their sales figures and all of their disappointment in the first couple of years and their happiness in the next couple of years in terms of the way that they operated their business. So we're basing our business on their business and on their experience. It's very relative in the state of South Carolina. What they do though, however, this is amazing, I didn't have to touch that, is that they are simply a consignor. So they buy the product from the farmer after working with the farmer to get it packed appropriately, and they hold it in their coolers and then they deliver it to markets and to restaurants. Now, they're working with much larger farms down there. So they have larger volumes of single animals. We, in the foothills of the upstate, have much smaller farms. And our farms are much more varied. And we have a lot of protein being developed here, a lot of animal programs, which we want to be a part of because one, I love meat, and we all love meat, well, most of us. And a lot of the profit that is available in that marketplace is trapped because the system is broken. There are no slaughterhouses that work on an appropriate level. A lot of certifications are out of place. And so we're working with all those different entities. Again, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're working with people who are already on the ground. We're just bringing them together and focusing them right onto specific issues. A specific farm, a specific product. So what the Feed and Seed, again, the Feed and Seed will do is we're going to be actually selling into the retail and wholesale marketplace simultaneously. We'll be supplying chefs and markets with volume products in raw form. We're going to be providing the retail market, the public, with a retail outlet. They can come to the central marketplace and buy fresh product right out of our space, whether it's an eggplant or whether it is a pork chop. And they can also benefit from learning how to prepare these foods in a different way if they're unfamiliar or if they are familiar, because we're going to have a commissary. We're going to be baking and cooking right there. I don't know if you've read any of the, excuse me, the local press lately, but Adam Cook, who helps found Restaurant 17 at the Hotel Domestique, is going to be our executive chef and training people into artisanal bakery and into simple preparation of good ingredients with minimal processing. So basically healthy cooking. That's super tasty. His recipes, the ones that are probably the most successful of every week, because he'll probably have 50 to 100 recipes going on in production every week, but those recipes that are the most popular, we're going to publish. We'll do videos on some, we'll do some print materials on others, but all of the recipes of basically what has just been purchased and the sourcing for where those farms provided those products to us will all be published. And that's what we're kind of calling open source recipes. It's not like a new thing, like Campbell's Soup obviously has recipes on the back of their cans and all of that. The innovation here is that we're taking that model and we're applying it to help us profit our farmers and help us get more healthy product into our children's gullets. So just like where we have the recipe here that is turning an Asian eggplant into that grilled eggplant on the side, we also are applying this in a larger spectrum. So while we've been preparing to build a facility, a physical facility to execute all of these wonderful things, we've also been building coalitions. And so we've been working with dozens and dozens of organizations, learning what their missions are, what their tactical potentials are, what their interest areas are within there, and how they might overlay. So I'm going to give you one example, and that's this thing. So this little guy here is called Choosy. It's a character, and it's a fuzzy character, and Dr. Carrie McKenzie at Greenville Health Systems developed this in West Virginia, and the character actually works with Head Start programs across the country. They're actually housed here in Greenville Health Systems. So the Choosy character helps children in Head Starts, which is basically 0 to 5-year-old children in families of need, make healthy choices. Basic things about movement, healthy choices about food, healthy choices about how to interact with other people. So it's a great character that does a lot of great work. Well, Carrie came to me and said, hey, I want Feed and Seed to help me work out a farmer's market curriculum to put into one of the Head Start programs as a pilot project, and we'd like it to involve local produce. What do you think? And it's like, well, I've been meeting with all these people at Live Well for the last year and a half, and so, I see Paulette Dunn in the room, and Tess from Loaves and Fishes, and a bunch of different organizations. You see some of the logos here. So Gardening for Good, which actually came about and was housed in Greenville Forward for quite some time. Thank you very much, Russell. And so, these organizations all have overlap. And so what we ended up creating was a collaborative approach to how do we help small children in impoverished families learn about fresh vegetables when we know that they live in neighborhoods that don't have fresh vegetables available. How do we teach them how to use those fresh vegetables and encourage their parents or guardians to use those fresh vegetables? And then how do we actually prove it? So in concert, and basically in short, Greenville Health Systems is going to be applying a lot of research from their research department. Clemson Life Sciences and Dr. Griffin, Sarah Griffin, is going to be putting a long-term study on the project as well, measuring a lot of the practices and outcomes. Dr. Elizabeth Ramirez developed 15 recipes for us. We're going to be delivering recipe kits to 187 kids every other Friday at the Head Start. They're bilingual, and Choosy also teaches sign. And so the kids are going to be learning from a cross-cultural standpoint recipes that reflect the 30% of the population in that school that is Latino, and 60% that is African American, and 10% that is basically Scots-Irish in the neighborhood. It's in San Souci. And so the kids will all be sharing each other's recipes in the form of these kits that they get to take home with their parents. And then every other week, all the same ingredients come back to the school, but this time in a farmer's market set up in their kitchen or cafeteria. And so they get to go through, and with their parents, they get to select the items that they want. So the reason that Feed and Seed is so interested in this is that we want to know, what do the kids and their families actually plan to purchase? What would they purchase? We're going to have a lot of surveys and a lot of interaction with these families over the 30 weeks that this is executed. But we're going to know, what are some of those items that these families in this community actually want? How do they want it delivered to them? What is an appropriate communication stream to provide them with the resources without being stigmatizing or being, basically condescending? But how do we do that? And this is a research project that basically all these organizations are going to be contributing to, which is marvelous. It's been funded in large part by GHS, but every organization up here is contributing. So likewise, with this, we've got all these ingredients that we're putting together in a way that is cooperative, that's co-created, that addresses an issue that is absolutely critical that we take care of here in the upstate for the people who want better food because they want it, and the people who need better food because they don't have it. And this will be reflected in experiences that are happening in the farm sector and in the education sector. So those projects you'll read about in the news relatively soon. But this is basically the recipe for success. It's an open source recipe for success. Thank you.